time fire, I'm just keep it kind of Rastafari, Almighty God, you know. Great man, live on, man. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, man. Pay prophet, man. With the center down here, Bob Marley, similar. King Chris and Prophet Marcus, God's word come to pass. I forget about for God, some great man. Prophet distinct, so like I come to pass the pagan. Baba TV, we coming from the grassroots. Babylon from the grassroots. We not go watch a dumb like that.
All right, peace and black power. Welcome to another edition of Baba TV Every Time Fire. And before me, beside me rather, sits a brother and longtime confidant and close friend of myself. And I'm just so happy that he's giving me some more of his time, because people are busy nowadays and they don't have time unless it's, you know, for the people and really some pertinent information. I know that's how Brother Sankofa is. And I really appreciate this brother and will never take him for granted, or any other person who chooses to come on my platform. With that being said, I'm going to let Brother Sankofa take the floor. He has a very important message, as always, to bring to us today. I don't have any questions for him. He already has what he wants to say, and I'm confident that Brother Sankofa has always been constructive and not destructive. So with that being said, take it away, my brother.
Thank you very much, Brother Baba, big brother Baba, for allowing me on your beautiful and critically important and necessary platform for the people. It is an honor and privilege to be before you again. Just last Sunday, I was on there, and you know, I like the fact that in such close succession that I've been back, because I've, you know, haven't been on the scene as regularly as I once was at a time. Some people were inquisitive as to where's Brother Sankofa? Did he fall off into oblivion, or does he even share the same passion or sentiments or social critiques that he once did? Where is the brother? So to be back on the platform, your brothers has been here. You know, sometimes you got to step from in front of the spotlight in order to get right, get sharp, get improved, get enhanced, and get ready to come back as a better version of yourself and a better medium of the information and exchange that will help to edify the people, to help us be a better people as a collective. Self-improvement a lot of times is paramount and necessary on an individual level to cause revolutions or to spark greater changes that are needed within ourselves, because revolution starts inwardly and then it spreads outwardly. So working on self to be a better version of myself so I can be a better contributor to the people with the information that I convey is reason why you haven't seen Brother Sankofa as much on YouTube. Now, I'm still on the ground and around, studying, preparing, staying sharp. But as far as being in the YouTube streets, I had to fall back from the YouTube streets for a little bit. But it's a pleasure and honor to be back again. And like I said, I'm not back in vain to talk about whose doctrine I disagree with, although sometimes there's a place for that and a time for that. However, I wanted to utilize the time in which Baba is sharing his time in his platform with me to talk about something pertinent and critical, that whether we call ourselves more Hebrew, RBG, whether our political uh, of parties that we represent or organizations that we are in and representing are in contrast with each other or don't see things the same way, whether it be ideologically or methodologically. I try to bring something in a spirit of unity, and something that is of critical importance, regardless of land, label, politics, or uh, dogma, that is a common thread of critical importance to Black people, period. So today's topic that I wanted to address is entitled, In the 60s, Dr. King had a dream, but in the 2020s, we need a plan. In the 1960s, Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream, but in the 2020s, we need a plan. Now, I want to put some things in perspective before I proceed to go into the points that I wanted to ponder and that I wanted to bring to the people on this title in which I chose. First and foremost, I want to give much credit, salute, and respect to the legacy of our now ancestor, great ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I would never choose a title, especially as a mature conscious man. When I was young and radical, I was more so, oh, Dr. King, man, he wasn't trying to liberate the people. He was trying to keep us asleep with a dream. Only time somebody has a dream, this is what I used to say now in my young passion. I'm still passionate, but I got more mature militancy and a different responsible way in which I convey even differences that I may have with certain great people who have done way more than I have, or many of us that we have the audacity to feel like we can just critique so relentless and reckless and tastefulness and so untactful. So I would like to be tactful in giving credit where it is due to Dr. King, and then eating the fish and spitting out the bones with certain things, okay, that I may not agree with. But first and foremost, giving credit where it is due to a man who had so much audacity and passion in a very turbulent time for our people, when whether he believed in a religion given to us by our oppressors or not, for him to take the stance that he did on the world stage at a time when media, television, all these things were kind of new. People didn't know about COINTELPRO. People didn't know the level. They knew they were opposition, but they didn't know the level tiered, organized type of opposition that we were dealing with in the form of COINTELPRO. And I'm sure other intelligent apparatuses that were used via the United States government to ostracize, to neutralize, and to marginalize the attempted growth and development into progression for many Black leaders and organizations in which they were pursuing back in those days. Dr. King was a proponent of that. He did a speech entitled, I Have a Dream. It is said by some that that speech was written by a speechwriter of his, happened to be Jewish. If that's true or not, I don't know. Do your research. Nonetheless, it is a speech that whether or not us more radical students or adherents to the more radical side of Black nationalism in a response to institutional racism, many of them are not as passionate about Martin Luther King or Dr. King as they may be for Garvey or Elijah Muhammad or Malcolm X or Stokely Carmichael. I understand that. But one thing I have to give credit and where it is due, the man was very intelligent, very eloquent. Our grandmothers loved him. So even though we might not have been passionate about him like our grandmamas was passionate. Our granddaddies were passionate. Our great aunties were passionate. People that we grown to love, respect, and to covet and value most of their opinions and morals that they have, loved him. And for him to stand for what he stood for and to be taken out at such a young age, 39 is not old. Me being in my mid 40s now, looking in retrospect at how time flies. And I'm like, wow, I'm here now. I'm looking at, damn, Dr. King was only 39, a accomplished more than me and many other people my age bracket and beyond has, as far as inspiring, galvanizing the people, as far as having the ability to inspire and galvanize the people. A lot of times people don't understand. I'm going somewhere connecting the dots. I have to first give credit and respect where it is due. So my point isn't misconstrued, because a lot of people love Dr. King. And I want to make sure I hit points of ponderance in the subject matter that I'm addressing. So it puts it in all in good perspective and gives credit where it's due. It doesn't have to take from or put down Dr. King in order to connect to the point in which I'm trying to bring you. Okay. So, and I give credit to Dr. King on a lot of levels that some people that don't know him outside of documentaries or brief excerpts or a limited marginalized Black History Month coverage of him, you know what I'm saying, from school or have you. A lot of people don't know, besides the I Have a Dream speech and his fight or plight for racial equality and turning the other cheek, or some people may say he was passive. Outside of that, a lot of people don't understand and have a lot of great respect for him, that me, especially over the years, having learned more about what he stood upon, definitely had to give him much more, have a broader scope, or take a second look at different viewpoints that I once did possess about him, that I did harbor about him. Now, it's ill because Dr. King, who was once a part of the NAACP, right? He was a part of the executive committee. He was on the executive committee, was actually kicked out of the NAACP, supposedly for being too radical. The radical stance that he took against the Vietnam War of that time put him in bad standing with some of his other people, affiliates in the organization of the NAACP that he was dealing with. So he has roots in radicalism. A lot of people don't know certain things about Dr. King, okay, before he made his transition. I mean, he linked up with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they put their differences aside. This is a symbol of what unity could look like in the midst of our ideological differences. Him and Elijah Muhammad, Dr. King had a template. I mean, as far as you seeing what they attempted and wanted to do, okay? And they was going to come together to try to, not to march, not to just give a fiery speech and send everybody home feeling better or like a more comfortable slave leaving than they did when they first got there. But what they wanted to do was try to employ and implement measures, plans, methodologies, and blueprints and what have you to bring about something that can curb the impoverishment, the impoverished areas or ghettos of America that were predominantly Black. And they wanted to implement long-term changes. So they were coming together to discuss political and business things, which would have took them out of the paradigm of their of their theological and ideological differences. That was dope to me. That's radical. Dr. King had people securing him and protecting him and his family when he was receiving so many threats, being watched by the FBI, COINTELPRO, the government, the local police, the mafia. It got deep. All kind of people was in a concerted effort against the brother. You know what I'm saying? And he maintained his stance, flaws and all. I mean, you know, and he had the Deacons of his Defense, which was an armed radical group that was protecting for self-defense and protecting Blacks who were registering to vote or becoming politically educated. The Deacons of Defense, you know what I'm saying, once headed, was founded by Robert F. Williams, okay? It started in New Orleans, okay? And the Black Panther Party patterned a lot of their style of self-defense and armed resistance along lines of the template that they left. See, this is the Dr. King some people don't know. I have a lot of respect for Dr. King, him once being a resident, not from Boston. He is from, I believe, Montgomery, Alabama, but him once, and, you know, very academically proficient as a child, you know, ended up going to college at a young age. He ended up in Boston at Boston University. I mean, in his tenure in Boston, attending Boston University for theological studies, seminary studies, and things of the sort, you know, he met his wife, Coretta Scott, who was also from the South, who was attending a university in Boston. And they met. He's an activist doing things on the ground in the streets of Roxbury, grassroots level, operating out of 12 Baptist Church, you know, historic landmarks in the great historic Black section of the city of Boston, in which I come from. basically, Dorchester and Roxbury. And so, you know, he has history and roots that I definitely respect. So I definitely want to give the utmost respect where it is due and credence to Dr. King for what he attempted to do with what he had, with what he knew back in those times. You know, so when I say he had a dream, but we need a plan. Now imagine this. Oh, Dr. King also said this before I go into that. One thing I will say about him that a lot of ministers nowadays, you won't even hear them have the audacity to remotely mention, most, not none, is he said when asked with the question about the Black Power movement, which was burgeoning movement of that time in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? All right. Stokely Carmichael, Willie Ricks coined the term Black Power. You know what I'm saying? Not just Negro equality that we was looking for, but Black Power. It was bold, it was cold, and our people was with it and on it. It was a time of consciousness, culturally, politically, and people. Black was beautiful. Black as now was a time. And that was during the time of the paradigm right before he made his transition. He was asked a question on a program that took place on NBC, and it was entitled, you could probably look it up in the old YouTube archives, entitled the Black Power movement. And Dr. King was asked about his perspective of the Black Power movement. And I liked his response. He said, Black Power is a psychological call to manhood. When he was questioned with what is his perception or views on what Black Power is, or the Black Power movement, he said, Black Power is a psychological call to manhood. And I concur, because I understand that even though some people, we ain't black, and they get caught up in superficial wordplay, and then take you into a whole nother superficial word to try to replace black with that. And then we get lost in debating about feudal situations in critical times. I understand what he meant. I understand the frequency and the energy what he meant. Because when we say Black Power, it is an attempt to compensate for our damaged condition in this material reality. It is an attempt. Black Power or empowerment or improvement is an attempt to compensate for our damaged conditions in this material, in these material realities in which we exist. So there's a lot that I do respect about Dr. King, and the government fed certain things about him. So that's why they didn't kill him for nothing. You know, a lot of these people acting like they're super radical, but they're still walking around talking. They ain't got took out or in prison yet. So it goes to show you might have to give King a little bit credit in the radical department than we have been giving him. But that doesn't mean we have to stay where we were at in his time with his viewpoints. We can respect that, but build on that. So Dr. King did a speech called I Have a Dream. I don't agree with all the contents of what he wanted in the dream, but that's besides the point that I'm making. Imagine if he did a speech entitled I Have a Dream. Instead of entitled I Have a Dream, the speech was entitled I Have a Plan. Imagine if Dr. King, instead of doing a speech entitled a legendary, iconic speech, eloquent, entitled I Have a Dream, instead did a speech entitled I Have a Plan. A lot more people would have been inspired to begin blueprinting and planning, okay? Opposed to dreaming, which is good, because it's good to be a visionary, but we got to know to draw the line between dreaming and being a visionary. I believe, or I want to give Dr. King the benefit of the doubt to believe that he meant being a visionary, having hope for something better in that. And, you know, I have like I said, I eat the fish and spit out the bones with a lot of the content and context of the speech, but I'm not here to critique our ancestor, the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, but I'm here to give another perspective outside of just the dream, but having a plan. And when I say plan, just to be because we know what a plan is, a blueprint, an idea, that's something that you want to bring into fruition. You know, it takes stages of development and a process in which you go to manifest that. It's a plan, right? But I wrote a plan is a collective agreement and approach that is both a tactical and strategic question of policy and codes that we must have amongst ourselves. So when I was saying a plan is what we need to focus on, because a dream had us ill prepared for those who only stopped at the dream level, were inspired to only keep dreaming or to only stay dreaming or only to have a dream. A lot of times we were ill prepared to deal with Reaganomics when it hit. We were ill prepared and ill equipped and ill informed to deal with. The onus is not definitely on King, or that speech by any means. It is layered and tiered all the reasons why this is just something that I'm homing in on for this subject matter, but I can tie into a lot of different things. Okay, we were ill prepared for the mass incarceration that we were dealing with as a result of Reaganomics and the influx of crack cocaine and military grade weapons that just popped up on the streets. In 1997, the CIA admitted to the Congressional Black Caucus with Maxine Waters in them that they were responsible for the influx of drugs in the 1980s, during the time of the Iran Contra scandal and the war that was going on between the Sandinistas and the Contras of Nicaragua. Okay, and a lot of the crack popped up on the streets. And as a result of that, the mass incarceration came in the 90s during the Clinton administration because we were not planning and didn't have our defenses up as a people, as a community. A lot of the times we were ill prepared for these policies that they were planning and blueprinting before that era even took place. There a lot of things that you've seen in our communities that popped up after the assassination of Dr. King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, after the Panther Party were assassinated and war was declared on them by the intelligence apparatuses of the United States government. You've seen a heavy influx of drugs, of military grade weapons, of cheap dope. Not that it wasn't there before, but it had help in getting there. And the amount that there was that hit the streets at a certain time everywhere, in every major Black enclave, just swole to levels not ever seen before. Because only a decade and a half prior to that, when we had leaders and activists and groups and movements, whether we all agreed on them or not, it seemed like there was more out there for different people, whether you were radical, whether you were a student, whether you were just coming home and you wanted to reform Nation of Islam, you know what I'm saying? Whether you just came home from the military and you seen things in the war and you wasn't patriotic no more, you know what I'm saying? Many of them became Black Panthers or became part of the US movement or became part of the American chapter and movement of the Mau Maus. Yeah, there was one over here too. You know what I'm saying? So you had a lot more activism and movements that came out of there to the point where COINTELPRO had to come. Well, it already existed, but they had to step up and put the heat on, pressure on people like Dr. King, not just him, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, okay? Not just them, SNCC, not just them, any kind of movement leader, Albert Puig in a Noble Shrine of the Black Madonna, whose church was rooted in a Black nationalist Christian, red, black, and green flags all throughout his church in the 60s in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? We're under the scrutiny of and the infiltration, okay, and of the United States government. And why? Because they said they feared, when you read the contents of COINTELPRO and as it related to stopping the rise of a Black Messiah. When it said the rise of a Black Messiah, it didn't mean that somebody was going to come saying that there was the return of Christ necessarily, but however, somebody who was going to be charismatic, inspirational, strong, powerful, that can move the masses and galvanize and mobilize them into seeking the change that they wanted to bring into fruition, which J. Edgar Hoover, who was the head of the FBI back then, considered the greatest national security threat to the internal security system of the United States government. Specifically said that about the organized efforts of the Black Panther Party. You know what I'm saying? So during those times while he was dreaming, people were planning, people were having hope, people were revolutionizing, people were organizing, the system was also planning. They were also blueprinting. They were also strategizing. They were also using counterintelligence methods of operations in which to stagnate, to offset, or defunct, or destroy, not just the leadership, but the hope of the generations coming afterwards to pick up the baton or the gamut of activities of the leadership that preceded them and to proceed forward with it, to advance and prepare us for greater days ahead. You see what I'm saying? So understanding that these plans are multifaceted that Black people need. We don't just need a plan because we don't just have a problem. We don't just need meaning one plan, because we have more or multifaceted, multiplicity, multi-tiered, multi-layered problems. As a people, we're not monolithic. There's not just one problem that all blacks collectively have. Sometimes finances is not a black person problem, or education or literacy. Some people have that. Probably living very comfortable and very decent. You know what I'm saying? Even though they're still in America and they're black and they have to be under the mindfulness of what can happen at any given time, them being who they are, not to walk around being paranoid all the time, but this is something that you should have in a file cabinet of the facets of your mind and thought process if you're black in America. So some people may be doing well academically. Some people may not have the issues with law enforcement. They're black, but they're in law enforcement or the military or homeland security and stuff like that. The common thread thing that we have is that we were a people initially brought here to work. There was a clause in the United States government constitution, section 1, article 2, I believe. Don't quote me on it. Check it out. Don't quote me on it. Check it, but it is definitely in there. And it states that the status of us, because us being property here at one time, we're on the books in cases and landmark cases and stuff throughout the annals of history of the Constitution here. So there were always policy that was enacted or maintained as it pertained to dealing with the slave class or the underclass, what was called, of society. You see what I'm saying? And at that time, us being considered, you know what I'm saying, 3/5 of a human, not having the same, not even rights as a person, but not even having the same status or of equality due to the fact we weren't even considered humans, let alone citizens. You see what I'm saying? So being that there was clauses in the constitutions that already said that and dictated that we were not even humans, therefore the pursuit for every man in the system for for the pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness wasn't really pertinent to us. We had to fight to establish our humanity and then fight for citizenship, then fight for equality in the face of a lot. You know what I'm saying? And doing that in the face of a lot as a people, right? We have to consider that being that we were brought here as property, not brought here to be considered equal, or to brought here to collectively flourish and then gain at some point in history a position, because of what the ominous implications what can be deduced from the ominous implications of a people who is organizing their dollars, their education, pooling their resources, and mobilizing to advancement as a great people who were once separated. You can become a great people in the country in which you're in. You know what I'm saying? You can vote yourself into political power along some lines. You will start to develop in the areas of science and music and technology, along with sports and entertainment. And the people who are social engineers, who have already engineered and blueprinted our position for our collective growth as a people, already seen that. So they had to already put measures in place to stop us for collectively obtaining these things. What am I saying? Don't even try? No. Am I saying this so you can say, why even try to be optimistic to fight? No. It's just we'd have to plan, plot, fight harder, come at it with a different strategy, maybe different angles, maybe not just a different angle, but many different angles. Maybe we need to start to have dialogues about what the plan and strategy mechanisms are to be, where they are to be in different layers amongst the different types of people that we have, because we're not a monolithic people. We're very multiplicity, just like other cultures and races of people. But our common thread of reality that we are facing here in America is that we are unwanted eaters. And it has always been a concerted, organized effort and machination to eliminate us, eventually. But when you have people who are brought here to work and they no longer serve a purpose, right? Especially in a technologically advanced and system, a technologically advanced system, where they have other people who fill in the labor force that are willing to work for less than you, sometimes with no insurance or less insurance. They have a little bit more unity amongst them than you. You know, there's different ethnic groups here now that a lot of times the effort that we were brought here, that purpose, that we were brought here for, collectively speaking, has been eclipsed by other desires, and it's like they put a lien on our existence here. You know what I'm saying? Like when an apartment no longer or a building, no longer a landlord has any value or can get any more out of that from the bank, you put a lien on it, try to get what you can out of it, or you condemn it. You let it sit there and deteriorate. And that's been happening to us politically, socially, economic since the Emancipation Proclamation. Am I saying it to be victim and to look at it like there's no hope? Once again, no. But if you don't understand what happened, you will never understand what's happening.
Sankofa, you sticking, my brother.
Hey, I don't know what happened, man. I don't get it. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, brother.
It happens, brother. That's all right. You drop in that fire.
Okay, you can hear me.
That's all right.
You can hear me.
Yes,
all
sir.
Right, yes, back.
You glitch.
Sorry.
We good. We good.
All right, sorry, man. The opposition did it. They don't want me to get this message out. No. I'm
right.
conspiracy theory even more than I'm joking. But like I was trying to say and put in perspective to move right along, right, and to pick up where I left off at, is if you don't understand what happened, you won't understand what's happening or how to properly address and plan around strategically what's happening to properly address and have success in that which you're endeavoring into, which in our case collectively is social justice. In institutional racism, systemic racism, which manifests economically, politically, socially, academic, law, labor, entertainment, war, and different people activities that I always said, I always will, because you have to constantly hone in on the fact that this is how racism, institutional racism, not just some pickup truck driving, tobacco chewing, swamp trailer trash cracker who is poor, ignorant, funky, and disenfranchised, who just don't like niggers. I'm not talking about him just giving you a racial epithet, or some hillbilly cracker redneck becoming a damn cop so he can get off his racist, you know what I'm saying, kicks off on you in a form of police terrorism against you when he has the chance as a police force, as a race soldier. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about institutional racism, where it doesn't matter if one cop goes to jail, which he should, for a crime he committed, once again, which he definitely should. Justice has to happen in tiers and in layers. But also, it's like this. We can't look at it like, see, the problem is the spider web, like Khalid Abdul Muhammad once said. We're looking at things not in its totality, and that's working against us for those who don't. We can't just look at the spider web and say the problem is the damn spider web. We keep getting caught up in all these spider webs. The problem is these spider webs are annoying. They're catching us up, and we got to tear down these webs. And you're damn right, we do. But if we're just looking at the spider web as the problem and not the spider itself who spins the web, because once you tear that web down, that spider will spin a new web. Meaning, once you put a new president in office, a new police chief in place, and you have other people in certain places and has other political concessions that they're in now, and have certain other jobs and titles and duties that they possess like their predecessors do, that means nothing, or it's putting a Band-Aid on a scar that requires a lot more attention than just a bandage. You know, it's stabbing you in the back 9 inches with a 9-inch knife and only pulling out 6 inches and saying we've made progress, like the great ancestor Malcolm X once said. So we also have to understand that we have to combat systematic and institutional racism with a plan of action. Now, it is good that people are going out there to galvanize, once again, people, for those who are sincere protesters, for those who are sincere. And to some extent, Baba, and for the viewership, sidebar, I do believe the sincerity is starting to wane as the numbers swell. Not for those who are just sincere, yeah, they're real. But what we have now is a whole bunch of, in my opinion, real rap people who are just coming out to jump on a bandwagon. They happy they just got off quarantine / punishment. And they're outside. I mean, we just got into the phase 1 in some cities of being able to come back out and re-enter society, right? In stages and in phases because of the pandemic or COVID-19. So a lot of people are just happy to get out. I do believe that many sincere people are on the front line, and organizations and individuals and groups and movements are there on the front line. But there are also plants. There are also agitators with other agendas. There are also police posing as and come in and infiltrate and guised as rioters. And those things have to make you wonder and be concerned with, where are they trying to go with this? Where is this going now? Because what happens when you got a lot of other people jumping in and causing mayhem and they're getting assaulted and arrested by the cops too, it can undermine the legitimacy or the critical need to address the social ills in the form of police brutality and social and institutional racism that exists in the system. It undermines and distracts a lot of people from the initial cause at hand that brought about these what you see as a form as the response or the revolt, as I call it, not just the riot, the revolt against the system. Some people are just out there rioting, and there is a difference. A revolt is an organized response, even if it is some looting and all that. Not saying people should do that in their own communities. A lot of times there's an organized response to that to stifle economically something. I mean, you know, yeah, and to have that, even though there are insured, there's setbacks that come with that. You know what I mean? But then there's a lot of people that's getting out there, busting windows, having fun, because many people, although they understand they don't want unity with black, they don't really care about our causes and plights like that. Some of these people out there, protesters out there, because they want to be able to say, I was out there too. Yeah, it was, because this is history. This is made international history. A lot of people want to get out there for a camera, a photo op, or a video op. Not to undermine the sincerity of those out there who are out there for the right reason. But the reason why I said the battle is in the field, even though some people may consider that the field, that's only a phase of being in the field. That is to galvanize or to spark conversation and inspiration for that which needs to be addressed. The organizing happens not outside with a camera on you. The planning is not as glamorous and epic and iconic as just somebody with a Molotov cocktail on with a red, black, and green towel wrapped around their head, even though it do look dope and strong along some lines. But planning is a long-term effort that is strategic and organized, that addresses the social ills that are institutional, that are what we will inevitably keep phasing after the unfortunate events that took place that led to the killing of our brother George Floyd. After this dies down or loses its fervor, and there's been police terrorism going on all throughout the country in the interim of this going on, you know what I'm saying? More people with knees on their neck. I mean, it's getting crazy. But the point is, if we don't plan properly, like the 5%ers got a saying, the 5 Ps. I always like that, you know. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. The 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Or the 5 Ps, I say, proper preparation prevents pitiful predicaments. Proper preparation prevents pitiful predicaments. And the predicaments will continue to prove to be more pitiful and critical to our undoing and to our dissatisfaction, and more so to our destruction, if we don't respond with an organized, orderly, united black front type of response. Not a hallmark representation of dashiki and fist pumping, but organizing along lines that affect a system. Like, for instance, a lot of what you're seeing is reactionary nationalism. I'm not going to sit there and call out names and say who is or who isn't, because who am I to say that? But a lot of us with common sense, even though common sense isn't that common, are able to deduce that, man, a lot of people who, when other issues were going on, and because this is not new, unfortunately, with the George Floyd situation and the people's response to it, this is not new, even though it's more reminiscent of a response of the 60s during the Watts riots, or 1992 with the riots as a result of the verdict with the Rodney King police case. Okay, so what a lot of people are doing is, you're seeing that, because it's crowd psychology to some extent, or rhythmatic hypnosis. Crowd psychology or rhythmatic hypnosis are just psychological terms for group psychology or group responses to things. Once something is perpetuated on the news, it is polarized. You know what I'm saying? It is a time in history where people are getting out, voicing their opinion. It has the propensity and the ability to spark interest in people to want to just get out there. You know what I'm saying? Because they're in the front of the camera now. Like they're and a lot of people are, because people are legitimately and real with it and always have been voicing their concerns. It's getting response now. It's getting attention more so than it has in a while on the level that it is from the major media sources and platforms. So a lot of times people are looking at this as an opportunity. Some are opportunists. Some are only pop-up brothers. They pop up like bread out of a toaster or Jack in a box, only when it's time to talk on a soapbox. Because they just want attention. A lot of people don't want to unite. They just want to be right. And this is the opportunity to exploit a great and noble plight. You know what I'm saying? But I see through them dudes because I got third eyesight. You know what I mean? And my whole thing is this. A lot of people are super militant now, radical now in their voice. And I like the energy. We can do something with that if we plan and organize with it. We don't let it just slip through our hand. And it was a galvanization with no mobilization afterwards, meaning it was inspiration. We felt good. We're in church in a form of being out in a protest, meaning we're getting stirred up with that good spirit of inspiration. But we're going back home and get ready for work the next day until it's time for us to go out and protest again, because the ugly face of racism has reared its head again. So we got to start to plan before, during, and even after the incidences that we continue to face go on. And along with these people infiltrating in these plants, being down there in these riots, for me, my opinion, what's going to come out of that is more martial law. When you attempt to try to riot, your freedom to have peaceful rallies may be taken from you or marginalized more than they already are. Because of what's happening now. There's always policy being placed as a response to the social reaction to things that take place in society, you know. And in this specific case, it sparked riots, conversation, dialogue that we're going to see ripple effects in many forms as a result after this fact. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things have happened as a result of this. A lot of the looters are Caucasians, are people who never stand up and fight or voice their opinion for Black causes. Go educate your people. Go organize your people. Go break up some things in your community and burn down. A lot of them are white nationalist radicals. Some of them are 3%ers or oath keepers. Some of them are part of Antifa. Some of them are undercover cops. Some of them are there to serve their own purpose and agenda, because, yeah, there are some Caucasians, because all of them are not just the same either ideologically. I'm not here to be their spokesperson or defend their stances either. They have enough of those in the defense, mechanisms. And you know what I'm saying? One of their biggest budget is a defense budget. So they don't need me. I damn sure wouldn't defend them, but they damn sure don't need me to anyway. But I will say this, they have differences amongst them, and there is a class struggle amongst them. There are political differences and oppositions and contrasts amongst them that a lot of us would know how to be able to utilize to their advantages, the way they use our ideological political differences to play chess with for their benefit, to their advantage. If that makes any sense. So many of them that are down there busting out windows and all that, a lot of them are Caucasians that have anti-sentiment views towards the government and system that they're in, even if they are patriots. Even if they are patriots, because they know that capitalism is the order and has been the order of, well, this is how the system started. But they feel as though the original founding fathers in the good old boy network, right, who started this system and made it the system what it was, to be predominantly white, You know what I'm saying? And white controlled, and for different reasons. There's not a lot of them on the planet outside of Europe and here, like on this big planet full of black, red, brown, and yellow people. Even though we know people aren't crayons, you get the gist of what I'm saying. They making up a minority and coming to take this land and then building a powerful infrastructure and government on it, have measures in place to maintain it a certain way. However, it's been co-opted from other Caucasians from the original Good Old Boy Network that have different plans and actions and want to see the country and the system go in a different direction. And then there's those who want to maintain it the certain kind of other way, where it was initially to be made and maintained for white Protestant political. I mean, things change. The only thing that stays the same is change the system, but they don't want the power grid to be for the so-called, as many of them say, the Zionists, behind the scenes Zionist control of the system that they're fighting for. So you have many of them, right? Not to take you too far into the deep end, but I wanted to give the point some credence. Many of white nationalists or white radical groups who are not just strictly for your cause or not planning for your betterment in the future, because competition is the order of the day too, and their children will compete with yours regardless after this situation and event we see going down continually. So a lot of them, they're busting windows out and expressing in their revolt and their riot against the machine, because they're anti-capitalist, even though they may be white radicals and white nationalists. A lot of times it's not for your best interest. That's why we have to organize for our best interest. And like I said on the previous video I did on Baba TV, the own us is on us. Not to sound redundant, but I gotta say it, and it has to resonate, and I say it intentionally so that it does resonate. The own us is on us. We have to plan, and instead of dreaming for a plan, we have to start planning for a plan. Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, are you familiar with him, Brother Baba? You're familiar with Brother Jawanza Kunjufu, right? Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
A profound statement, a profound comment, and and he gave a scenario rather, and he said the Negro question is, what are they gonna do for us? The Negro question is, what are they gonna do for us? The African question or the Black question is this: what are we gonna do for ourselves? To expect a system who benefits on marginalizing you and giving you groups and crumbs of success, but not as a collective, would never just turn the tides and change a plan or a process of institutional, systematic, layered type of ways of operating, would never just change that for no reason. So if we're thinking they're going to change because of a couple of good benevolent, you know what I'm trying to say, benevolent Caucasians who may be woke and may be conscious of certain things and may agree along some lines with us, if we think that that is good enough and suffice for us to not be as organized, turned up in our organization, not turned up and just responding and being angry and emotional, but turned up when it comes to long-term organization. If we think, because a lot of them who may attempt or appear to be sincere with their stance along lines with us, because I can't say every one of them breaking a window is just an agent in a plant. We might have just say that. I don't know everybody and everybody's psychology or their background, but let's look at it collectively and historically. And we have to understand, like the great Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, history is one of our greatest teachers, because today and what we see going on today is based greatly on what was blueprinted and institutional from yesterday. And what takes place tomorrow will be predicated and based upon what we do or don't do today. The onus is on us. We have to plan our work and then work our plan. With the looting and the rioting, you had other people who I considered of African descent as well. I am a Pan-African, so I cannot leave my Latino and Caribbean brothers out of it as when I say Pan-African. For those who are of African descent amongst them, we know that there are mixtures amongst the people in those islands and stuff like that. But we have a great standing, previously had a standing along the lines with some of our so-called brown brothers who were just light browner and different hues and complexions, because there was a boat stop that brought many of them to Dominica or Puerto Rico or different places in South America from parts of Africa, you know. And specifically, I wanted to address what I seen taking place, which was like, wow, damn, at a time like this, shit get real. Like Dr. Clark said, we don't have any friends. We have no allies. Even when we do, don't trust it. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for us to have allegiances amongst ourselves, and the ones we do have amongst ourselves are kind of fragile. We got to work on that. Outside of that, we don't have no real allegiances or alliances. Or a lot of people use us for cannon power when it benefit them, and they came here as a smaller minority group, and we were a larger majority group at the time in the 60s and in the 50s, and many of them hung to the coattails of the movements that we were in and endeavoring in political and social improvement and cultural and community empowerment. You know what I'm saying? So you had the Brown Berets, which are a Mexican political paramilitary wing that was seeking many of the changes in this system pertaining to social improvement and justice. They were seeking. You had people who were inspired by the Panther Party. Right in Chicago, there was a brother, Puerto Rican brother, who was inspired to start his chapter of what was the Black Panthers in New York. He was inspired to start them in Chicago, and they were called the Young Lords. You see what I'm saying? So we have a history of standing with our revolutionary brown brothers against systematic and institutional racism, that it behooved me when I seen a video of Latin King brothers, right? And then you know the history of how they started. You got to stop calling me, dude. Stop calling me. Who keeps calling me?
Keep teaching, brother Sankofa. You teaching, you
All
on
right, because I can't see I got a call. I should put this on don't disturb, because it just keeps just put this on don't disturb. Okay. All right. Hold on, brother. I'm trying to get back to the camera because it's hard for me to keep teaching when I can't see and I'm not even aware if.
Take your time, Sankofa. Take your time.
But I don't want to take the time of the people, because the people are giving me their time, and I want to properly give them mine. So, just 1 second. Bear with your brother. Bear with your brother. Oh my God. Okay. I guess we're back. Can you see me? Are we back in the building?
We good, Sankofa. We good.
Right. Turn the volume up. Yo, yo. Oh my God. Oh. This is annoying now.
That's all right, Sankofa.
No, we're gonna get it back. It's just annoying. Somebody keeps calling. I just put it on don't disturb. And it just, I don't know. Yeah. Then my phone's slowing up. So just bear with me, people. That's crazy. I don't get calls a lot. Now I'm doing this, and you know, it's probably somebody calling me, seeing me on the show. Oh my God. Baba.
Yo.
I don't see nothing. I don't know what's going on. Just bear with me, bro. This is crazy.
I see you. It's just that you're sideways, but I see you and I hear you.
Okay. I can't even hardly hear you. The volume went down. All of that, man. This is crazy.
Well, try.
My phone won't even back normal. I can't see the screen. Like, it's just blacked out. I don't know what's.
Well, try chiming out and then logging back in and see if that works.
I'm gonna do that.
All right, family. Just bear with us.
This is crazy, man. Oh my God, dude, this is crazy. Like, yo. Oh, what? God, dude.
Get the call thing that's touchdown there in a London. Me the war US where they come from London. If my class come, they must come from London. All of my big money friend in a London. Car from London, girl from London, house in a London, my dog from London. My mom is gonna London, my pop's gonna London, my friend gonna London, must end up a London, Kingston, London, Brentford, London, Sutton, London, Stratford, London, Big up like London, the sea London, Payne out London. From a youth and me I hear about London. Them I talk about the green and the tongues, man. Them say when football run the nation, and Dwight York was the king of the island. When they get big and they learn what designer, big man love like a man in the prime, yeah. Mr. Take a flight and go overseas, find a rich one, then they live like a G. I ain't never listened to this folks, nah. Don't come pay me to this blokes, nah. Homie, I'm in it for the dough. I'm running to the
Put the
back, high
link in
school
there. Put
transport. Yeah,
this brother right here.
music,
The name of the song. And put that in the link.
beat, yeah, little hip hop, make it sweet. Everything
Put his name
good,
and
see
everything in
it.
there
They
for
call King, just know that I book it in London. Me the war, he was where they come from London. If my class come, they must come from London. All of my big money friend in London. Car from London, girl from London, house from London, my dog from London. My mom is gonna London, my pop's gonna London, my friend gonna London, must end up a London. I came to bring the vibe. Get with me or move aside. One of a kind, no, two alike. I peep your sign, I be your type. London smooth, got a tiny temper. Never rule, could be cold as December. See right through all my enemy. Struck regal, I'm an African. Told you how I'm coming, give you mine them. Dripping with the sauce, hella top man. Your way used to doing things that you used to. I can show you some things, make it new too. Yo, tryna let go, but your grip loose. Only way for you to go is be a new you. Only request, keep yourself on the live. Smooth operate, give you Saturday time. Let's touch down there in London. Me the war, he was where they come from London. If my class come, they must come from London. All of my big money friend in London. Car from London, girl from London, house in London, my dog from London, my mom is gonna London, my pop's gonna London, my friend gonna London, must end up a London, Kingston, London, Brentford, London, Sutton, London, Stratford, London, Big up like London, the sea London, Payne out London.
Yo, Baba. Yo, yo.
Yes, sir.
Baba.
Yes, sir.
All right. Damn. Let's hope that just doesn't happen. That's never happened before.
Oh, we good. We good.
All right. I'm sure you held them down in the meantime. I hope so. My people give me their time. I want to properly give them my time because time is important. All we got is time and it's not to be wasted. So let me not waste no more time and just pick up where I left off, right? Let's get it. So I was talking about the young lords, the brown berets, different unity initiatives that was sparked for the same shit that we're facing now, as far as being the social injustice and institutional white supremacy and capitalism that we're dealing with, right? That manifests in many different ways. It created a black and unity dynamic and attempt at a time. And a lot of things have happened since then where the division is definitely real. And a lot of people who came are not on the scene anymore that was sincere, that stood up for the causes of black and brown, because it took a concerted effort, it took numbers to do and accomplish certain things. And a lot of people respecting the plight that we were fighting for, them being newer immigrants here than us being the oldest ethnic group in here besides the Dutch, who don't even exist here anymore, and us being brought here, not coming here as immigrants, many of us fighting for social injustice, and it was polarized before the world via media. You had many people with, I believe, many anyway, that had, not all, that had sincere, um, that had sincere agendas, and their pursuit of trying to establish unity, and umbrella organizations with us. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of stuff has happened since then, especially with the influx of drugs and the drug trade and more Latinos coming here. Is like, different Mexicans, different groups and all that. Many of them who were victims historically of the same beast that bit us, maybe the Spaniard and not the Englishman, but of that racial group. But not to go too far into that. So a lot of them who really are filling certain jobs, positions, and areas in society, and especially work, and have more numbers than us now. A lot of them feel like they don't need us. They don't need to unify with us and have legit concerted efforts for our best interests. You see what I'm saying? As a collective, many of them have abandoned the what I want to say, the attempts that they once were trying to establish to have black and brown principled unity moving forward to become a unified force together as a people. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that has dissipated over the years. And it's just still to see a people who have dealt with a lot of discrimination and racism. It goes to show you that colonial psychology too. And the fact that we don't have any enemy, we don't have real allies. Shit. A lot of times, not even amongst our damn self. So, they see them in the streets talking about, if you come to our neighborhoods in Chicago, place that has a very revolutionary and political history as it pertains to the organization of many of the gangs that started there in their inceptions, to hear them making threats for the ones who did. And I seen a video that kind of definitely caught my attention, saying that, if we catch any of y'all here around our way, even going to the store, don't even use the store around here. You know what I'm saying? Because if you burnt, looted, and destroyed your neighborhood, and you come around here with that, it's going to be a problem. You know what I'm saying? The dude was saying, we're not even worried. We're saying this for your own safety. This is what the Latino cat was saying, for your own safety. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be your best interest not to show up in this area. You know what I'm saying? Because if so, we're going to show you basically what he was saying, then we could tell you. There's another footage where, in that same video I seen, where it shows them pulling up on a car, just letting off, shooting at a black motorist. And I'm like, wow, at a time like this, where we have our age-old fight and plight against social injustice and racism, for people who just looked at as brown niggas by the same people for the most part, even if they don't consider themselves that, for them to have such a vanguard and strong stance against us and not with us, considering the historicity of us in our communities, a lot of them, the division is real though, once again. And I'm not trying to make an appeal for people who don't want to unify with us. I only want principled unity. So I don't even want unity amongst our own who are not sincere, real, and diligent with it. So let alone with people who really don't even respect us. The fact that we may have ancestral roots in Africa and share some melanin and some physical traits, and we both like drums and our music and spices and our food, is not always the precursor that is something that is an enablement to spark true unity, because we have similarities or a common ancestry. We have to have an agenda, a machination, a plan, not just a dream, a plan of action that is going to empower us. We don't have a lot of enemies. A lot of allies. And sometimes has nothing to do with race, meaning some people are of the same race, meaning of African descent, may just be in a different area. Shout out to my revolutionary Puerto Ricans, though. Shout out to the ones who historically contributed to the greatness and upliftment of the race, even though we may be euphemistically be different tribes, okay? Arturo Schomburg, who was going around collecting so much historical artifacts as it pertained to Africa and in the diaspora and in the Caribbeans, okay, and is responsible for being a forerunner of what became the Harlem History Club during the Harlem Renaissance, when you had to produce the greats such as Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, and many other great scholars. And there's a library in his honor named after him, a Puerto Rican freedom fighter from the Lower East Side of Manhattan in the early 1920s. That's right. And his thing was the academic and educational upliftment that would break those shackles that would help us break the psychological colonialism that kept us divided, therefore conquered in the first place. So shout out to him in the spirit of those real Boricuas and real Puerto Ricans that have that revolutionary spirit in them, that are of African descent and that get it and that are proud of it. I can have principled unity for them. We can have a discussion with them. But for the other ones who want to bring more terror or threatening to approach and address us with more vitriol and division than what we're already facing, our people are getting tired and we're standing up. The sleeping giant is waking up more and more, and we're standing up. And we're not playing with anybody in the way of our justice, whether they are of African descent or not. Whether they want to agree with it or we're of African descent, we still don't fuck with them niggas because there is cultural differences. There are worldview differences. There are long-term differences that we want, that we are divided amongst, even though we may all have African lineage in us. That is not the precursor, always just for unity. Just because they got melanin. So if they got melanin, but they're against our cause, our plight, and they act towards us and maintain the same hatred towards us as our enemy, then nigga, damn it, they are the enemy. Whether they look like us, come from us, or are descendants of the same root as us. We got to stop planning, because if we keep sleep and keep staying asleep, we will die in our sleep. If we keep sleeping as a people, we will die in our sleep. We're sleeping and having a nightmare. If we don't wake up and change our reality, because the onus is on us, then we are going to die in our sleep. And the only time you dream is when you're asleep. When you wake up, you have to wake up to begin to plan. And in your dream, you might even have a good idea. If you are dreaming, dream about waking up and changing the paradigm of yourself as a person and contributing to your community, and then collectively the greater good of your people, if that's where your spirit, mind, agenda, and soul leads you down the direction for doing, or get out of the way of those of us who are sincere about it and ready to die and kill for what they believe in. We go hard against each other, but a lot of times when people go in on us, we don't seem as passionate and strong and as hardcore and as about that life. And a lot of that is on us too. I mean, if they're trying to kill you and wipe you out anyway, damn it, we better go out with a bang. We are a race of soldiers. We come from greatness. We got warrior in our DNA. Not all of us now, but enough of us to make a stand to spark a change on smaller, intermediate, and then on more bigger levels that are needed critically. In order to make changes, you have to study and get in tune with the changes that you want to make to be able to plan to bring those changes into fruition. There's information on a lot of different things, and becoming conscious, one of the first things that inspired me was history, because I wanted to know about our greatness, because I didn't see that promoted in television and in the school curriculum. I damn sure didn't see that in church. My granddaddy was a reverend, great man, loved him, very great man with great morals and principles that he instilled into me that I still maintain to this day. You know what I'm saying? So the greatness of the things that we have to employ has to be predicated upon that which we need. See, so my whole thing at first was studying history because I wanted to see our greatness. I wanted to see and know about that and read about that and be inspired with that, to know that I can be that and some and produce that after me. A lot of times we get caught in just history. Yes, there's all kind of forms of liberation that we need, and there are books that out there that answer things that we need addressed on different levels and in different areas and in different and on different subjects. You know what I'm saying? So economically, politically, we need to be reading books on psychology. We have a health epidemic in our community. Reading books about health, African holistic health. You know, some people have gripes with some of the information in the book. Eat the fish and spit out the bone. Everybody got to start somewhere. Okay, nutricide. There's so many plethora of books on different subjects. And one thing about the conscious community outside of just the YouTube conscious community is that there are a lot of people who are writing books, who are producing literature and writing materials on a plethora of topics that are geared towards healing and improvement and empowerment. So we need to get more in tune and infused with different dynamics outside of just history, archaic past history, and our greatness in Africa and in Egypt and all of those things, which are very important. Even every race and every culture has a historic society, a flag and history that they covet, revere, and respect and pass on to their kids so their kids can be infused with the psychological greatness, knowing that they come from greatness. So we must definitely keep studying and maintaining the knowledge of history and all that. But we also have to recreate history so people will look back at our greatness and say, look at the template that what they were going through at that time, that they planned, not just dreamed about, and organized and blueprinted and gave us a template that we're continually intergenerationally bringing into fruition. We have to create history, not just read about it and become scholars with it. Let's become soldiers in the present. So scholars in the future will talk about what we're doing or what we did or what we ought to do going forward, where they're at now with the blueprint or the continuation of a plan at that juncture where we're at now. Health epidemic, like I was saying, is rampant in our community. We eat the worst foods, we have the worst health care. So learning about healing, getting fit. I'm a person that always talks about being in shape, being fit. This is part of the plan. Literacy sometimes is the plan in our community. A lot of people are doing bad. We're impoverished. So if you want to get into business and training and knowing how to create blueprints to empower people, the blueprint for Black Power by Dr. Amos Wilson should be like what the Bible is to our grandmothers in a generation amongst us now. The blueprint for Black Power, which is a thick book that deals with and covers so much of what we can do. If you're in the game, in the streets, and you was a hustler, you hear people talking about we got to wake up, and we do, and we got to make changes, and a lot of them want to, but they're like, I've been in this lifestyle with it, I got a record, I've tatted up, I'm just waking up, and the change ain't just right there waiting, but these kids got to eat, or my bills got to be paid, or the situation that I'm dealing with and what I'm in now, I have to address that now. I want to be a part of the movement. I understand the struggle's real, but I'm where I'm at with it. I'll just salute y'all when y'all doing it. But you got to understand something for brothers and sisters like that. The youth and the OGs still stuck in that life, right? That there's answers for things that if you're seeking, you shall find. If you're trying to get out the game, this is not no end-all be-all book that will help you get out the game, because change is a process. But there's things that can inspire and educate and inform you is what to do on a smaller and intermediate and then larger scales. The book, How to Hustle and Win. The book, How to Hustle and Win, by Supreme Understanding Allah. That is the name of the author. Supreme Understanding Allah. How to hustle. Hustle doesn't always have to be illegal or illicit activity all the time either. You can have a legitimate hustle. So this one is entitled How to Hustle and Win, a thick book that covers so much for us and our demographic and what we ought to do. And it's applicable information, not just inspirational, but applicable, meaning you can be inspired, informed, and then actually go about implementing things that you can do on some level to make changes and inroads in your life on a personal level, so that you'll have a certain kind of foundation, security within yourself, skill set, and therefore something to bring to the greater struggle in your community, or the plight, or the information, or even if you're just an example that your OGs or the young G's looking up to you see as a template in a way out that they can change for the best, because they're going to keep turning up on us. These are stage setters. These are only these things, meaning that we're seeing, these policies that we're going to see as a result of what we're seeing, that's going to introduce us to another paradigm or stage and phase of our journey and sojourn here as a people. We got to have a plan or plans intact and in place to meet that inevitability of what we are going to face. There's no getting around it. I mean, it's crazy. And we got to stop supporting a lot of these dudes who are contributors to the problem amongst ourselves. We got to clean up our own house too. We all have flaws, so I'm not going to be too critical of people because shit, I'm a scarred and flawed person. But I want change, and my desire is sincere and it's real. You have people who may have the celebrity and the resources and therefore the influence to be able to spark or contribute to some changes that, when asked about what they see going on, I'm gonna be specific. Lil Wayne, when was asked in an interview with Fat Joe recently about his perspectives as it related to the pandemonium we see going on as a result of the police killing and the response of the people with our brother George Floyd. And his response, was kind of like, we got to look at. Sound like he was probably going to make some kind of point. But, it just sound like that. Oh, I really don't really care about that. I mean, I'm rich. I got mine. It. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to look at ourselves as the issues, man. Like the problem. And we a lot of times the victim always likes to blame himself. That's that Stockholm syndrome, and that's that battered wife syndrome that we have intergenerationally have had as a people, as individuals, that you see a lot of us who may have power and influence, or what is perceived as power and some influence, you know what I'm saying? You don't see them being voices in our culture. Not that everybody should, not that everybody has to when the onus is on them. But it's crazy that when somebody has that much attention in inspiring so many of our people at a time like that, when our people are hurting, dropping the numbers from COVID, doing, and not to say he doesn't do nothing or send money back to us. I'm not saying that, to say his own community in New Orleans, Louisiana, and stuff like that. But I remember he was asked a question a couple of years ago on Nightline, and his response was kind of full blown coon. Sounded like a full blown coon. Like if being a coon is a syndrome, he had full blown coon. Straight up. As far as about the condition of the people, police brutality, things we're facing back then, Philando Castile, all that was going on at the time. Walter, the brother who was shot on camera by the police, and they Walter Rodney, I believe his name is, in South Carolina, and they shot him and put the nightstick beside somebody was filming it, put a taser beside, so he tried to get his taser and fight when they shot him. And they was asking him about that, but all that was going on at the time. And on Nightline, he was asked a question pertaining to that. He sounded so uninterested, nonchalant, and just unconcerned with people who put a lot of money in his pocket to help him become rich. And he talked about the pain, the plight, okay, in the conditions of our people. You know what I'm saying? And he's very talented now, by the way. I rock with Lil Wayne, stuff like that, but I also am a social critic. You know what I'm saying? I'm an intelligent black man with a bigger perspective outside of just Lil Wayne's music and his creativity and talent, and is a bigger perspective that I look at as it pertains to our people and where we're at, and the things we need to do to maintain our existence. So it's bigger than me just liking and respecting his talent. That's why I can give a critique the way that I can, even though I still respect him as an artist. And he was saying, man, only thing mattered to me is my chicks, man. None of that stuff. I don't consider myself, black and all. The only thing that matters to me is this red. Show this red bandana. Something that is a mentality that is a contributing factor to self-destruction that we see in our community. You know what I'm saying? A person who has a 4.0 GPA at the University of Houston, I'm talking about Lil Wayne, in psychology, a very intelligent person, therefore, you would expect more from him in a comment of something substantive worth saying, opposed to you sounding like the average regular nigga. Maybe you don't want to mess with your sales or your image you have to maintain. I'm not here to criticize. He can do whatever he wants, but once you put your opinion out there, it is open for criticism. And I'm just giving my critique about his critique. That's what we do. You know what I'm saying? We move past that and stay worried about him because the onus is on us, the grassroots, and the people that we got to organize. We got to change this. We got to meet the G's, the OGs, the babies, the mom in the church, the brother in the street, the brother in the college suite, the brother in the prison facility, or the brother in college. We got to reach people on different levels and with that common thread need of planning and reach people who we can that just get it. The people that don't, hopefully they will in time, and some people never will. That's why I have expectation management and I'm a realist. You know what I'm saying? But however, to see many of our people who talk like that at a time like this, you know what I'm saying? We should not even support them niggas, man. They should be banned or boycotted by us. We talked about boycotting the system. We got to stop boycotting people who talk about the problem is on us. So young black, we got to look at the position we playing it. But you're talking about I'm a blood. I ain't with that black stuff. This is the color I see. By default, nigga, you just said you're a part of the problem, meaning you don't care about the greater problem at hand. But getting past that, there are people who are rappers that we can take inspiration from. I'm only contrasting and comparing at this point. Master P. Master P is recently, and I'm seeing a Facebook post and in different videos saying how black people need to come together and pool our resources. We have a $1 trillion a year spending power. We have one of the biggest groups, spenders as a group in this country, but we don't have principled nationalism or unity. So therefore, there's no concerted effort, plan, blueprint, vision, or desire to want to use our weapon or weaponize what we have, which is our greatest weapon, that dollar bill, to make some changes or to empower ourselves to finance our own causes and institutions. You have to have a blueprint for Black Power, and therefore you have to have a plan of action. You have to have an idea of not just seeing yourself as an individual, which a lot of our people do. I'm educated. I got a house. And that's good. We should aspire to get education because we do need more people in Penn State than in State Penn. But some people get, after the integration of the 1964, 65, after the Brown versus the Board of Education and stuff like that, you started to see a marginalization of Black success as a group and as a community because we basically absorbed into the dominant culture or greater society. And a lot of people have become more selfish, materialistic, and individualistic. So a lot of times as a people, we're doing great in everybody's plight, therefore ain't the other person's plight. Some people might, you know what I'm saying, I'm doing me, but as a collective, as a group, there's no block voting. There's no group economics. There's no code amongst us that we have like other cultures have and should. So it is not politically, economically, or socially beneficial for them to keep attacking and having an onslaught against us. Once we establish ourselves, we're still going to deal with them, though. But I'm just saying it wouldn't be so easy and our response wouldn't be so weak. It wouldn't be so easy for them to maintain and continue to deal with and address us the way they do. And our responses won't be the way that they are because they're almost predictable and they can calculate and know what to give them to pacify them, to calm them down for a little while till we put in a new policy to stop them from even doing or attempting that again. So we have to have counter plans. They have a counter intelligence. God damn it, we need a counter intelligence in and amongst ourselves. And that means all your people are not going to be with it. And I get that. You know, I don't have a romantic outlook or expectation for none of this. But we got to start realistically from somewhere, man. Shout out to Master P, who was saying Black people need to buy up the properties in their communities. Start to vote locally and get more into the political process locally. This is going to stop racism from existing and the people who have a blueprint and the outlook on you that spans just politics and socially. They have scientific racist theories toward you that's been imbued intergenerationally in their minds to see you a certain way. No, it's not about changing people. It's about changing us. If you're going to be born, if you're born into where you're born at anyway, therefore, if you're not affecting that which affects you, you're only going to be affected by it, meaning you're a willing slave. A slave couldn't vote. A slave couldn't own firearms. I'm not saying you should just want to vote because it makes you less a slave. But if you was to utilize your stuff in an organized, orderly fashion, strategic, and not have false expectations like voting is going to liberate you or just change the paradigm completely, but on a local level, vote some people, especially in Congress or council immediately, you know what I'm saying, that represent your jurisdiction, that are the liaisons to deal with people in politics, that deal with where the distribution of goods and services and resources go. You might want to stop putting money into your community, because when you're dealing with money, you're going to be dealing with politics because they go hand in hand. So people ain't into that politics. Well, there's political. Listen, you understand something. Politics affect everything. How much you pay for rent, everything's political. The courts, taxes that you pay, everything is political. How many resources go into the schools that your children attend? Everything is political. So when you deal with commerce, trade, or finances and economics, you're dealing with politics by default. Now there's electoral politics, and then there's this social, economic, and political politics that deal with and affect you with everything you do today. And if you willfully say, I ain't going to be involved with nothing, there's an executive branch, there's a legislative, and there's a judiciary branch. A lot of times we just deal with the executive aspect of things, which is the people who executive branch, your mayors, your judges, your president, of course, sign off on stuff. But the people who make policy and sit down and create these lawmakers and stuff like that, deal with they're in the executive and the judiciary branches. Don't you know they vote for Congress, who's going to be in Congress and stuff like that? I believe every 2 years. You don't hear about them vote who is going to be your judge or your DA. A lot of times you have people that don't reflect the demographic or the best interests of your community, and they're there in your community because processes and blueprints and plans went in line that they had, right? And utilizing things for their best interest when you just had no part to do with it, or not enough of us did. Now people in our community that don't respect us or reflect our best interests, that have jobs on construction sites or in stores or institutions where you should have had first dibs on it for those who qualify because it's right in your community. And they can benefit economically and politically. You know what I'm saying? So it's a systematic thing is what I'm getting at. That I'm not saying think politics is going to solve your problems. No. If you did think only politics alone will solve our collective problems, that would mean that's reactionary, not proactionary. Pro-actionary is when you just don't use politics. You use your cultural continuity. A united front demands and objectives and agendas that the people have. And you finance and blueprint your own plan of action. But you utilize, like pawns on a game of chess in the extended chessboard of life that we're dealing with, called the system in America, you use things strategically to work in your best interest. You don't look at the pawn as the end-all be-all solution. You look at it as a move, something in which to move and to shift gears that work in your favor while we're at where we're at with it at this juncture in reality that we're facing at this point, if that makes any sense. So we got to start to have plans, because once again, as Jawanza Kunjufu said, the Negro question is, what are they going to do for us? The African question is, what are we going to do for ourselves? We're seeing there's a lot of reactionary and less proactionary responses. So you're on the hamster wheel. You're moving aggressively. It looks like you're mobilizing, but you're only going nowhere fast. You're only going nowhere fast. But you're putting in a good effort. You got to get off that hamster's wheel and get on a real journey with a plan, or with plans. There were so many books that deal with so many different things. Think and Grow Rich, a Black choice. Michael Kimbrough, Dennis Kimbrough, I forget, but it's been a while. I read so many books that I forget the author's name, but I know, get in tune and infused with information that may, for you as an individual, be something that you need to work on. That might not be the whole community's plight. You know what I'm saying? There's answers for that. Powernomics by Claude Anderson. Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson is a book that we should definitely have in our library. God damn it, at our table, open, reading. Sometimes self stay in the library and collect dust with us. If we looked at these books the same way in the church people look at and have faith in the Bible, And what I mean, not the same exact way, like a something holy and a salvation that's going to come in the afterlife. No. But if we look at it as its importance, if we apply the contents and context, and it will give us a blueprint to some measure of success, we can add on and make great, powerful moves in our own plights and desires for what we need and what in light of what we're facing. Powernomics by Claude Anderson, The Blueprint for Black Power by Dr. Amos Wilson, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. There are so many books that deal with things that we need to heal our conditions. I read a lot. I mean, I was just reading this book right here. Pretty good book, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexandra. She gives gems on so much that you're going on, how the 13th Amendment, political again, organized effort, because it was a clause in the Constitution, the 13th Amendment, that if you broke the law, it was for the freed slaves. So this was specifically for you, black man in America, that if you was to break the law, that you go into the condition of slavery and servitude again. That's why they begin to criminalize us after the Emancipation Proclamation, after the Plessy and Ferguson Acts of the late 1800s, which was separate but equal. And we had more farmland and more houses and owned and operated more hospitals then, and had more independent institutions and information mechanisms and propaganda mechanisms in the forms of newspapers that we had to create to educate and inform and inspire our people. We had that in the late 1800s, Plessy and Ferguson era. You see what I'm saying? But a lot has been done to undo that, which we were mobilizing towards back then. We don't bitch and moan about it. We pick up, we know better, we show better, and we grow better from that point. But a lot of us are not familiar with what is happening because they're not privy to what happened. Another book I'm reading right here, Black Religion and Radicalism. This is one of the books that I'm reading that inspired the topic for this episode of Baba TV. King had a dream in the 60s, but in the 2020s, we need a plan. You know, black privilege. You know, it was a quarantine. I was just getting my push-ups in, do a push-up and pick a book up. That's my saying for those who are familiar with me. Do a push-up and pick a book up. Make yourself stronger mentally, physically, economically, politically, spiritually, academically, and we'll be better versions of ourselves to make our bloodline stronger. And with a plan, not just a dream, we can offset, overcome, and transcend a lot that we are facing. Yes, sir. I see you, Baba. So I wanted to thank the people for tuning in. My battery's getting low, and I don't want to have the same blackout on my phone. I don't know what that was about. I want to thank the people for giving me their time, attention, and just the love and support where it is. And even the hate, I appreciate y'all too, because it boosts my competitive spirit, and it keeps me sharper than the prison shank mentally. I want to thank Baba for allowing me to open up this beautiful, powerful, and critically needed platform for me, your brother, once again. And I hope that we got something out of this. I hope that you got something out of this, and I hope that we can begin to broaden the scope of the dialogues in which we must have moving forward as a people. You know, I usually like to greet people in peace, because peace is the absence of confusion and chaos, and we need more of it. So I come in peace, and I also leave in peace, but it's not just always about peace. I also stay positive, but in doing so, stay dangerous. We are on a multi-tiered and in a multi-leveled war, socio-politically, economic, and even physically along many lines speaking. So stay peaceful. Intend and only want and desire that which is good and positive, but also stay dangerous. This is your brother Sankofa. I look forward to doing this again and on a more consistent level, coming on Baba TV and addressing topics. I would like to have maybe somebody else on the show with me next time, and it'd be us three, and we can basically test the topic a little bit more with somebody else that is, interested and qualified to give their perception on a plan eclipsing a dream that was a good intended dream, but we are in a time that is real in the field. And in order to have real results and real changes, we need a real plan of action. All right. And we need to get real with that. Or we are going to die in our sleep having a dream. All right. The onus is on us. Just want to leave out and say that. Stay dangerous, peace, love, and light, and strive to become better versions of ourselves in our journey in this destination called life. Peace.
And on that note, family, peace and Black Power. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Baba TV Every Time Fire. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. And always to my big brother Sankofa. We out.
Salute. Peace, love, and light.